People today in America are asking questions: why spend $950 billion, have 800 bases and 11 aircraft carriers if you are going to lose in every theater? What avail? Make no mistake, you cadets might well be the war generation. Come the next crisis or conflict, say in 2026 or 2047, we should not regret that when we had the luxury of time, we did not do enough. We did not change at pace and scale. And most importantly, ये वक्त नहीं फिर आएगा. This moment will not return. तुम अपनी करनी कर गुजरो, जो होगा देखा जाएगा, जो होगा देखा जाएगा. There has to be a certain fearlessness and courage in the business of change. Thank you, sir, for those kind words. The Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, the Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Hari Kumar, former Chiefs, C&Cs, Commandant National Defence Academy, Vice Admiral Ajay Kochar, the principal audience, you, the cadets, who are lucky to be training here whence the NDA, this great cradle of military leadership, turns 75. A momentous occasion indeed. Many, many congratulations. Alumni, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I thought it appropriate to place my talk in the context of what British public intellectual Bertrand Russell once observed about the critical role that institutions like NDA play. Now, don't let this put you off. Bertrand Russell was just an ordinary creature, but what he says is important. He says that in their infancy, शुरुआती दौर में, institutions shape character. Then character transforms institutions. Note that institutions shape so that its products, the character of its alumni, in turn can transform. Shaping is not good enough. The cycle only gets completed when transformation occurs. And it is this shaping, transforming continuum that ensures that our organizations stay alive, they remain vibrant, and they don't get enveloped by status and status quoism and continuously evolve to higher and higher vistas of delivery. So I think this is a good metric for us to try and see how this great institution that we love so much, the National Defence Academy, and its alumni, you and I, have fared so far with regard to this covenant. And I call it a covenant because it is this sacred oath of driving change and transformation and how we could possibly come together to make the most of what could once again be a new dawn in our national security endeavors. Now you might ask, or you might say that this is a pretty high bar, but are we not, I ask, the most respected, trusted, and loved institution in the country? Must we not therefore hold ourselves to the loftiest of purposes and the highest of bars? So an honest de novo look, afresh, anew from the scratch, for that is what we have been asked to do, at the pipelines of our military leadership, in the sanctum sanctorum of the nation's leadership incubators, in the context of a profession that lives, breathes, survives, and thrives on the quality of its leadership pipelines, is not only overdue, but also perhaps a very productive way of celebrating 75 years of the Academy's existence. So let me attempt to do so in terms of three simple propositions. One, what makes the NDA so unique? Two, how have we fared thus far? And three, how could we do even better? So what makes the NDA so novel? You may have heard it hundreds of times, but let me reiterate. The unique attributes of NDA that, in my view, we must preserve, strengthen, and never change. Foremost, perhaps, is the novel manner in which the formal and informal components of its curriculum converge. So critical for the synthesis of body, mind, and soul, in fostering the indomitable NDA spirit, and in the forging of a steely combat demeanor. So not merely academic schooling, but a wider, well-rounded education and development, equal proficiency in the physicals, a love for the outdoors, the honing of leadership skills, developing a refined sense of right and wrong, a framework of discipline, integrity, trust, and loyalty, very distinct from flattery, wider wisdom, vivek, as they say in Hindi, which is the secret sauce to navigate the challenges of the big, bad world. The formal component is, of course, valuable. All that you are taught in Sudan block, the science block, the laboratories, the drill square, the gymnasium, battlecraft, the grueling cross-country runs, overcoming of all your anxieties through instruments like the 10-meter jump, the public speaking skills that you hone through debating forums like the Bhavani Shankar. But the informal component is equally salient in terms of robust psychological conditioning and creating a loose framework of military do's and don'ts shaped by the adventures in the alleys and lobbies of our squadrons, rolling down staircases, seventh heaven, cream rolls, lifting bicycles rather than riding them, listening to the melodies of Jagjit Singh and Chitra Singh in an awkward Murga position that is in fact my sturdiest memory of the Habibullah Hall. Now these are all valuable metrics of the informal component of the NDA curriculum. But there is a method, may I emphasize, to this apparent madness, undergirded by a very solemn objective, that of creating a powerful, winning warrior ethos that is rarely girded in any rationality and logic, but one that has stood the Indian military in pretty good stead from Chushul to Galwan. The learning pedagogy of the Armed Forces cadets that is set into motion here at NDA is also very unique. It is a mistake to assume that it emphasizes physicals at the expense of intellectual attributes. It merely spaces them out along the career trajectory in accord with the peculiar needs of the military. So the initial years focus on physical fitness and resilience, junior leadership, as also professional and cultural attributes peculiar to the three services. As we get to mid-career, and particularly close to the apex, make no mistake, the discharge of our professional responsibilities demand the highest levels of intellectual capacity, creativity, and imagination. So the NDA is indeed this unique crucible. Our most venerable products, Gurbachan Singh Salaria, Arun Khetrapal, and Manoj Kumar Pandey, cannot emerge from the portals of any IIT, IIM, Harvard, or even Oxford. Its pedagogy is purposefully aligned to the needs of the profession of arms, far beyond the imagination and capacity of any university grants commission. Now, there is no hubris here, but merely to emphasize the uniqueness of the Academy's character and its very sacred purpose, more in accord perhaps with the thoughtful advocacy of Abraham Lincoln, who said, sell your brain and brawn to the highest bidder. Sell your brain and brawn to the highest bidder, but never put a price tag on your heart and soul. So excel in all that you do, but never forget that the military code must always remain wedded to a higher purpose, that in the ultimate analysis, all authority is moral. In its very conception, too, may I say, NDA was extremely far-sighted and driven by great, almost forensic clarity. Look at this. The USA legislated its gold standard in jointness, the Barry-Goldwater-Nichols, in the year 1986. But India conceived its gold standard in 1949 itself, when the Joint Services Wing was conceived as a stepping stone to the National Defense Academy, the first of its kind in the world. Its emphatic tri-service character signaled the Indian resolve to eradicate tribalism in the defense services at birth. The program for continuous professional development, if you read the Auchinleck report and thence the Chiefs of Staff Committee documents, was also structured with singular wisdom. In the initial years, hone single services proficiencies, a mid-career focus on integrated combat, evolving gradually and finally into the development of a wide-angled view of national security for officers lucky to be at the apex. So even in the ideation of jointness, we were far, far ahead. We may have trailed, faltered in the follow-up and execution. Proposition 2, how have we fared thus far? Largely, in my view, we have done exceedingly well, driven by the combat values and cultural traditions instilled in NDA. Our junior leaders are perhaps as good as any in the world. They continue to lead from the front. They are fearless. When called upon, they unhesitatingly embrace the supreme sacrifice. They ensure that our land, sea, and aerospace frontiers are secure and that our sovereignty is inviolate. When it comes to the change dynamic, however, we have responded hesitantly and incrementally. We tend often, and please note, to conflate status quoism with high principle. But in the transformation space, in my view, we have failed abjectly. If it does not sound too harsh, I think we have failed lock, stock, and barrel. In terms of anticipating change, grappling with strategic uncertainties that Admiral Karambir spoke about, in setting new benchmarks, and embracing global best practices in deterrence, war fighting, and the wider ambit of national security, we have been very, very slow. And there is a reason, in my view. The Indian military is very strong in the TTP space, in the tactics, techniques, and procedures. Now, organizations which are strong on process and procedure typically innovate incrementally. So incremental change is happening, but within a certain reference architecture. Given the current and future trend lines in national security, however, what we need is transformation, doing business in remarkably different and new ways, changing beyond the reference architecture. Here, the unfortunate and historical truth, not only for the Indian military, but worldwide, is that organizations will rather fail than change. The Indian defense enterprise in the build-up to 1962, you must read a book, The Guilty Men of 1962. All excuses till 62 happened. The IDF that we admire so much prior to 7th October 2023, the American military in Vietnam and the American military once again in diverse military theaters. Look at the failure of deterrence in Ukraine, virtual or possible abandonment in Taiwan. People today in America are asking questions, why spend $950 billion, have 800 bases and 11 aircraft carriers if you are going to lose in every theater? What avail? So institutions, as I said, or organizations will rather fail than change. Now, what brings about the transformation is the sagacity and quality of the leadership. Recall the Bertrand Russell quote, institutions shape. They are good at doing more and more of the same thing. It is the character of the alumni, the quality of its leadership that transforms organizations and institutions. So the foremost concern before all of us today is creating a crop and culture of transformative military leadership that can thread the needle of change. 75 years into its existence, in my view, this may also be the central challenge that stares the National Defense Academy and the larger Indian defense establishment in its face. Finally, how could we seize the moment? How must we step up our game? Allow me in all humility to offer a few suggestions. First and foremost, we just need to acknowledge the grueling pace of change that is sweeping the national security landscape. There's no time to elaborate, but that by itself would be a major first step. Respond creatively thereafter to the new burden of expectations. To paraphrase no less than the Honorable Prime Minister, we need military commanders, he says, who not only lead brilliantly in the field, but also thought leaders that drive change through the national security system. And where will such leaders come from, if not from the stock of this great academy? NDA obviously can only be a cog in the larger wheel of transformation through the extended ecosystem of the defense services. It could, however, be the critical initiator of a series of small but significant steps that fire the larger transformation. By shunning ordinariness and thinking big and thinking grand. Now, this is not thinking in the air, thinking big, acting small. Every other sector and segment of government and society in India today, this is my observation, is executing truly ambitious change. Why not us? Why not us, I ask? Without weakening in any way the strong edifice that I painfully emphasized, we must use our military genius to inject into various facets of the NDA curriculum a dose of fresh thinking, the need to think and act like a big power, developing a far deeper and more nuanced understanding of geopolitics and its connect with national security, the power of innovation, the value of asymmetricity, doing more with less, drawing inspiration from the recent examples of the militaries of Ukraine, Iran, Turkey, even the Houthis and Hezbollah, who now have a formidable military prowess and remarkable missile arsenals. The salience of technologies like AI, robotics, and quantum. Now, this is no airy-fairy stuff. These are actually impacting greatly all domains and grids of war, and they could be the secret sauce for narrowing our military lag with China. We could build a change, transformation, innovation narrative with subtlety into various activities in NDA, the syllabus, the extracurricular activities, the debates, the elocutions, and the symposiums. In my view, create a discipline of change and transformation in the formal pedagogy of the NDA. Institutionalize risks, sanctify failures, else there will be no innovation. A careful look, gentlemen, at the geopolitical trajectories around us will tell you that the arc of conflict is bending steadily towards the Indian Pacific, even perhaps closer home. Make no mistake, you cadets, might well be the war generation. Come the next crisis or conflict, say in 2026 or 2047, we should not regret that when we had the luxury of time, we did not do enough. We did not change at pace and scale. We may like to correct what I see as the developing skew in the technologies-humanities balance. I may be wrong. BTechs are fine, but what about a deeper understanding of the geopolitics of space, the chip and AI, the study of supply chain, statecraft, etc.? The country, in my view, is undergoing the scourge of excessive BTechism. We have 20 IITs, so many IITians, I see them appearing for the CRPF exam, for geologists. These kind of BTechs, this kind of stuff will really not do us any good. What we need when we talk of BTechs is those people who produce cutting-edge technologies like Elon Musk. That is what the IITs and all must do. The induction of lady cadets into the NDA is a very welcome step. We must invest in greater numbers and begin to look at women as a valuable talent pool and not merely as an instrument of gender balancing. May I also suggest a larger bout of restructuring? ARTRAC must be the first command to get joint, has also become the engine for integration, innovation, change, and transformation. The NDA, the DSSC, the Army War College restructured and mandated to run a joint high command course, and the NDC must be placed under the CISC and the CDS as an integrated enterprise. And across these institutions, we must invite real high-quality civilian faculty to raise the intellectual bar of the Indian military. It is being done in India, it is being done elsewhere. Why not in the defense services? In finality, cadets, my generation was told, don't rock the boat. Your generation, I'm sanguine, will rock the world. And whenever in your journey of change and transformation, you find yourself short of inspiration, listen to this lovely verse by Fahmida Riaz. She says, whenever you try to do change, she says, kuch log tumhe samjhayenge. A few will always counsel you, don't change. Wo tumko khauf dilayenge. They will even use fear to deter you from embarking on the path of change. Jo hai, wo bhi kho sakta hai. You may lose what you have. इस राह में रहज़न हैं इतने, यहाँ और बहुत कुछ हो सकता है. If you embrace this path of change, there are many dangers lurking. पर तुम जिस पल में जिंदा हो, ये पल तुमसे जिंदा है. And most importantly, ये वक्त नहीं फिर आएगा. This moment will not return. तुम अपनी करनी कर गुजरो, जो होगा देखा जाएगा, जो होगा देखा जाएगा. There has to be a certain fearlessness and courage in the business of change. So if you do wish to be innovative and creative in your careers and do decide to be a change creator, do step out. You will then be surprised at the number of allies and mentors that are waiting to greet you. And often, I say this from experience, often from the most unlikely of quarters. Now, there will be many in the audience that disagree vehemently with what I say. You are most welcome. In the great tradition of the Indian military, high-quality ideation is always embedded in the contrarian spirit. The courage to disagree, but also the wisdom to agree. A sehmati ka sahas, sehmati ka vivek always makes for a good debate. Thank you very much for a patient hearing. Good luck always. Jai Hind.